You're listening to World Oil Deep Dive, conversations with energy industry leaders and engineers about the market trends and technologies shaping the oil and gas industry. Now, here's this week's episode.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Jim Watkins, and we're at the Tomorrow Show in Oslo, Norway. And this has really been a fantastic show. And kind of toward the end of the day, we have this amazing panel with us. So, gentlemen, before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself and just say a little bit about what your company does?
All right, so my name is Anirudh. I am the co-founder and CEO of a company called Celebal Tech. We're primarily a data and AI focused solution provider and focused on working with oil and gas customers and power utility customers across the globe.
Nice.
Excellent.
I'm Sam. I'm the Chief AI Officer and the co-founder of Applied Computing.
Oh, nice.
And we built the world's first physics-informed co-pilot that allows users in heavy industry to identify anomalies, understand root causes, and know how to act and optimize.
Excellent.
Fantastic, and I'm Shane McArdle. I'm the CEO of Kongsberg Digital, and we're really shaping the future of work with all our partners for the heavy asset industries.
Yeah. So we've heard a lot of presentations today, but I wanted to ask you guys. I mean, you probably sat in on quite a few of these. Shane, maybe not you. You're running around, trying to organize things. But what's the biggest takeaway for you guys from this?
Can I start first?
Oh, I don't mind.
Sam, go ahead.
Okay. Well, for me, what was really incredible was to see how much the industry cares about the digital and the AI revolution, because I come mostly from the tech world, and most of the AI that is talked about today is really the AI that works in the internet world.
Right,
so we know
yeah.
AI can beat grandmasters at chess, also create symphonies, but not much is talked about AI models that can run heavy processes or heavy industry.
For
right?
various reasons.
But
not easy.
But one thing that is clear is the main interest to improve, to get those efficiency gains, and more importantly, the importance of this industry to continue to serve the public and its demand. And AI is that unlock, which is a clear evidence you can see from all the talks that were here. So for a company like mine, it was just music to ears to get an understanding
Right.
of where that direction is, where that interest is, and where the pain points are.
Right, for sure.
I think my takeaway has been that, there are great things happening all around us, right? But how do you manifest that inside a large organization that's a large oil and gas organization? And I think that's what I very specifically, I would say it's a very subjective opinion though. I think it's all about customer experience. I mean, I call it the iPhone moment where the customer experience changed for a generation, right? The camera, the iPods, the phone all got into one thing called the iPhone, right? How would that, how would that kind of an experience, let's say, get manifested in a large oil and gas or a large power utility? And for that, there is a need of, I would say, ensuring the fact that we do not just sell AI for the sake of selling AI.
Right, yeah.
Right? That's, to be honest, I see that a lot, right? But we really look at exactly.
Fully agree.
And really look at the use cases that impacts your bottom line or the top line.
Right.
And once you can decide that's what I want to do, then you ensure that how would that be consumed by a user. And for that to happen, you got to have a persona-based thinking. And for that to happen, that means you have to have that right customer experience, which I believe would be, let's say, on the top of everything that you got from a data platform, your agents, your AI platform, your SaaS solutions, and on top of it is the customer experience. That'll ensure that eventually the real manifestation or the real outcome of AI would become conspicuous.
Yeah, it's interesting because in some of the presentations I was watching today, that's specifically what they were talking about, right? Is that it has to drive ROI and it has to be used. Now, Shane, you're the organizer of this whole thing, and we were talking a little bit earlier.
That's not really true, but yes.
Orchestrating.
I'm the reason it's here.
Yeah, there you go. But tell me a little bit about what we were talking about earlier about the adoption, talking about how the industry is very interested in it. Talk to us about the adoption, because you lived through that, right?
Yeah, no, and it's very much your point, the customer experience, All of these AI tools are built for the day-to-day users, right? And again, industry is very, very different. It's not consumer grade consumption, So the Perplexities, the Microsofts, the OpenAIs, they've done a fantastic job. And as I said here, connecting people of all walks of life to very complicated and high technology. Like these are large language models, these are artificial intelligence, and people are just happy to use it, and they use it very easily. But we have not seen the same adoption into the heavy asset industries for various reasons. One is it doesn't understand the context of how these industries work. And this is what Jensen Wong talked about, it needs to understand the real world. It needs to have physics kind of injected in or constraining AI. So we have a bit of a way to go. We have to put it through this kind of real world filter in a way, from the consumer world into the real world. And then I believe we will get the adoption that we're looking for. But it's very risky, and I use the word unleash AI into safety critical industries. This black box stuff, right? But it has so much value. Everyone here today, I think it's a great community. They believe in it. They want to do more with it, but they want to do it in a safe, responsible, and trustworthy way. Yeah, absolutely. And so, speaking of that, the whole safety issue when it comes to the user interface, or any of that, is that something that is like super important, the very first thing, like, because our industry is very conservative, right? And so safety is always like way up there. And so how does that affect the user interface, affect the safety, and the processes? Can you guys speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it impacts in multiple ways, because what you realize is that unlike the internet world, which has very low consequences when things go wrong, right? The real world, the consequences are huge. We're not just talking about consequences to the bottom line, which is multi-million dollars, but also lives are impacted, right? We have vivid, tragic memories of bad decisions and what's happened to plants afterwards. So every decision that is made drives consequences with it. So any engineer who has to support that decision as a respective output of a model has to put their name on it. Right. And has to be able to sleep at night saying that I am happy to back this decision. So in that case, and it's to what you said with regards to the user interaction, trust is always the key to adoption, but trust isn't something that can just be blindly adopted. It has to be ingrained into how these models are built, as well as how this information is shown on the screen. And it has to be stripped away from all of the unnecessary things that are fancy, but more importantly to the core of the information, which is, if I have to make a prediction, it has to follow with the right information from evidence, as well as a recommendation of decision that is backed. And for that matter, UI, as well as the actual mechanism of how that information is retrieved, paramount, non-negotiable almost.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is amazing, that I think this, what you're talking about, like somebody has to sign off on that, and so they're responsible. And I think that's one of the things that leads to the conservative nature of this business, right? Because nobody wants to, if everything's working fine the way it is, nobody wants to adopt a new technology because, hey, something could go wrong. We know we've been doing it this way for 10 years. And so, is that hard convincing people to move off of that? I mean, the interface, that has to play a big part in it, right? Because if you can say, like, look, you have this very, very complex thing underlining everything, but we can make that simpler for the user and bring to their attention things that are important more quickly, right? Exactly. So
it is actually. It's not straightforward to go and tell someone who's been in the department for, let's say, 25 years, you know what, I can do a job with an agent, right? I mean, they'll feel offended. So we're never trying to do that. We're always trying to say, okay, something that takes you 8 hours, let's say do it in an hour, and then do 8 more things, right? The way safety becomes important in this regards, and I would say safety basically is a combination of governance, your access to things. Like, my biggest challenge is if you are a user of, let's say, one of the agents, and it is making a decision based on the data that you're not supposed to see.
Oh, interesting. Right? Yeah.
So
how can you check it? Yeah.
So that's the biggest problem that we see with agents today. Yes, you can. I can give you access to certain set of agents, which is fine, which is simple. But the problem is you had access to that agent, but you never had access to the data it was using in order to make a decision, and you don't know if that's outside the realm of the data it was supposed to see or not.
Right.
And that means if I just give the KPI of cost reduction, it might just go and say, you know what, throw this thing off.
Right.
And you save the money, but you actually lose hundreds of things, right?
Right. Yeah.
So the idea is that how do you make it governed enough that it understands your context, as you rightly said, the context, who is going to put the final stamp on the outcome? Okay, this works.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where we've kept the energy, the entire agentic ecosystem, not at the execution, but more as a recommendation. So it makes a recommendation, and then there's a human being who says, yes, I think it all looks correct with all the parameters here and there, and the recommendation looks logical, let's go for it.
Yeah, keeping the human in the loop. It's important right
100%.
now, yeah.
You
I mean,
can't-
at some point in the future, maybe not, but, for now, 100%, I mean, you can get recommendations and stuff, but, I liken it to, like when you were talking about agents, having a team of people working for you, right? And as the person in charge, you always have to sign off on that. So they're going to come with their recommendations and tell you what's wrong, but it's up to you to decide, right? And so
It has to be, because even the end decision that is being made has to take into account factors that not agents will be privy
right.
to.
Yeah.
And it's a very important variable to consider, with the fact that ultimately, if we are not going to take control, are we really willing to give control?
Right. Yeah.
And that's until it's fully validated, we should never take that risk.
Yeah. Any predictions on the future then? How long will it take until that stuff is like fully validated and everybody can have confidence that, oh yeah, this is set up, on a very regulated system, so it knows the regulations, it knows everything, and we can trust what it says?
That's a very good question. So firstly, if I was to think about the layers it will take, right? It's not just a 0 to 1 jump on that front.
Right.
It's 0 to 100, in which that has to go in steps. The first is a lot of work has to be done, and this is some of the work that I was fascinated from your team about, was how data infrastructure is taken into account. Because information delivered, it's at the end of the day, AI is garbage in, garbage out.
Right, yeah.
Right. So how that information is delivered in an unbiased manner, so that the model itself doesn't become biased, because there is bias.
Right, yeah.
Humans work different way. Different plants operate in a different manner. Different
Absolutely.
teams operate in a different manner. And those biases are actually important to understand what is bias to a plant and what is actually general operational understanding and constraints.
Right, yeah.
The ability to decipher between that is vital first. And I would say I would give it about 2 years to complete that.
Oh, really? You think
that
that's soon?
aspect.
Yeah.
Because models are becoming more and more intelligent about understanding what are the generalities of the world we're living in. This is typically known as world models.
Right.
And what are the nuances of actual application, which is typically known to be done by a fine-tuning in the world of AI. And then once that level of intelligence is unlocked, it's then saying, okay, now if I was to scale at multiple places, how do I accrue all of that knowledge in one understanding that is homogenized across all deployments, right? And I would say that's about 5 to 10 years away.
Okay. But progress, nice progress along the way. You guys don't see any hiccups? I mean, anything?
I see progress continuing. But in general, I still believe, no matter how far we get, a human will always have to be in the loop. Yeah. And it's important we actually make it that way.
Yeah. You have to have somebody responsible somewhere along the way. But, this is one of the problems I think you see in a lot of industries, like our industry, quite frankly, in the oil and gas. Young people coming in, right? It's not a sexy industry, right? They don't want to do that. But you guys are bringing a lot of tech to it, so that'll hopefully attract them in. Yeah. But the problem is the guys who can say, oh, yeah, that's valid or not valid, they have years of field experience. And when they go, who's going to fill that in, right?
We can't have that go with them. That has to continue.
Exactly.
That's one of the powers of having AI accrue that knowledge, right? Because that knowledge can then be transferred to the new generation that is typically lost, because the kind of things I've seen in the field, you're not taught in textbooks.
Right,
or in college.
exactly.
You have to actually physically go there and see it happen. That is reflected in the data, but more importantly, that is reflected in the knowledge of these people.
Wow,
What's the best way to collect it in other ways if you're not just doing endless document writing like the old days? The only way to experience that and hone it so that we can actually have better teaching methodologies for the next generation is by using AI to learn from their experiences and the data to unlock what those trends are.
Have you seen people doing that? Like they'll take some guy who's near retirement, is an expert in his field, and it's just like, okay, sit down and teach the AI everything you know.
It's partly what we do.
Okay.
On that front.
No, I don't think kind of tuning the AI using these guys. But I think the way these industry experts would be used would be to be the final stamping guy to say, yes, this looks okay, right?
Right, yeah.
AGI, which we call as artificial general intelligence, which is, as I said, about 5 to 10 years ahead of us, wasn't a possibility, I would say, 2 years back.
Yeah.
Right,
Think of
yeah.
it,
I
right?
agree.
The progress we've made in the last 2 years is impeccable.
Wow.
And to believe that it's not going to happen, the AGI is not going to happen, I would say will be a very, very pessimistic view right now. From an AI perspective, is it all for good? Very tough to say right now. As of today, I am not seeing people losing jobs to AI. I use this Mac analogy all the time that a Mac would cost you $2,500 in 2010. It still costs you $2,500 in 2025, but it is 20x or 50x or 100x more competent.
Right, yeah.
So you still be valuable, but you got to be 10x more competent.
Yeah.
And that is by leveraging AI.
Yeah, making every employee like a super employee.
It's
right?
a work unlock.
I mean, yeah, absolutely.
100% an
Absolutely.
unlock.
Well, so is there anything else you guys want to add before we call it quits here?
I mean, I would say AI is there for everyone, and please don't be shy of the fact that, no, it's not for me.
Right.
That's for an analyst, that's for a manager. I'm a field service technician. It's how would someone go and fix it on the system? It is actually applicable for every single person, more so for these kind of guys, so that they get the right indicators, right parameters, right consulting when they're operating on an asset.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, my last comment will be that AI is here to stay,
Yeah.
and what I loved about today is how serious as a collective industry we're taking it, because the truth is, even the biases of the creators of these AI models exist in
Right,
these AI
yeah,
models.
absolutely.
And it's vital that us, not only as entities in an organization, but also as a field, are involved in creating such AI models so that we have it that actually collectively adds value to the industry as a whole.
Absolutely.
Because without that, you will only get a biased output.
Right.
Absolutely.
Oh wait, I wanted to ask one more thing before we go. I said that was the last question, but it's not, because this is something that I always find interesting. So let's say that everything stalls out in LLM land, right? They can't figure out how to make the models any smarter. If we were just working with what we had today, does all this continue?
Yes, because LLM is only an aspect of a knowledge, right? Because LLM is a representative of the knowledge we get from language and text.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of data and knowledge we store in many other modalities, right? We have time series from our sensors, we have visual outputs from our cameras. All that progress continues. It's not just one, it's the ability to combine these multiple brains and specialisms and put them together and allow them to communicate to solve a particular problem. That's what really the AI's unlock is. Just like we do in industry, right?
Yeah,
we don't
exactly.
have one chemical engineer, we have different specialisms that work with one another in order to actually solve a problem.
Yeah, but I think that's the fact remains that there is a good progress happening on multimodal.
Yeah.
Right? I have a reason to believe that training will eventually cease to exist. In fact, we'll have super highly trained models, and we need to have more inferencing, and that would help maybe in lesser consumption of GPUs, more consumption of CPUs. I would want to see a world where large language models or really complex models with trillions or maybe hundreds of trillions of parameters running on a CPU. I think that'll be the real outcome that we'll see one day, if not today.
Yeah, excellent.
I'd love to see that too.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you coming.
Pleasure.
And take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to our show. Please check out the show notes for the links we discussed in the podcast. We value your opinions, so if you have any questions or comments, kindly email them to us at deepdive@worldoil.com. Additionally, we'd appreciate it if you could rate us on your preferred podcast listening app. Lastly, don't forget to visit worldoil.com for the latest technical articles and news about the oil and gas industry.